Hello and welcome to episode 17 of The Dive. Welcome back, Kobe.
Thank you.
Hope you had fun time off.
Enthusiastic.
We have
He
a
always
lot
does that
of
on the
time.
number. He really likes the numbers.
Episode 17.
It's like the count or whatever from
Yeah.
Sesame Street.
17 episodes.
17.
17.
What happened after that? Speaking of unexpected things, Liquid now has new players. We're going to talk about that.
Yes, we're also going to talk about some more numbers. Patch 7.15.
Whoa!
Oh, that's good.
baby.
It's no longer synced with the episode number.
And my boy Urgot as well.
Yeah, talk a little bit about LCS as we are winding down the regular season.
Okay, so last night, we're filming this Wednesday morning. Dardoch to TL. My first response was, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
What is happening? Why would Dardoch go, of all teams?
Well, my first response.
We know why, but there's...
My first response was to go look at the current roster and like count how many players they have because they've just picked up a ridiculous amount of players now. They have what, like three?
They have
mid
Inori,
laners,
Reignover,
three junglers,
and Dardoch,
and
Slushie, Golden Glue,
They
and
took their
Mickey.
10-man roster. They're
Still
like,
just 180 carry, though.
we're committed to 10-man roster and making this. And they're like, you know what? Nah, 13, 14, 15. That's better probably.
It's getting autofill, man. You get in the queue, you got 3 mid laners. What are you supposed to do? But I mean, for people, you say we know why they're doing it. Some people may not actually realize, right? So
Yeah, we should
to
break down
headline
exactly what happened.
So Team Liquid picks up Mickey from the LCK. He's a mid laner. We are then assuming, okay, he's going to be the starting guy. They already have 2 people that are non-residents, so Reignover and Piglet. You can only have 2 on your roster. So with
2
the,
starting at the same time.
exactly,
Yeah.
yep. So then with Dardoch getting picked up, you're assuming, all right, well, they're not going to start Reignover anymore. You're assuming that means they want Dardoch over Inori. They move him in. They move Mickey in. That's what we are assuming is going to be the starting lineup, right? So they had to make some sort of change to what their starting lineup would be if they want to bring in Mickey. But
Yeah.
the whole thing seems a bit crazy, especially when they are finally, it's like, Liquid had a great weekend. They did it. Golden Glue's the best. All right, you're out there.
to be fair to them, I don't know if they were like expecting to have
course,
things to go right or whatever. And clearly, with this much switcheroo, they've been working on these deals for a long
Yeah,
time.
you don't
agree
just
with
get
Drew.
Mickey in a week.
Yeah.
Who's a Rocks Tigers mid laner.
Let's break them down one by one though, because Mickey's.
Okay.
Let's start with Mickey because that was the first one, right? Mickey in the mid lane. Obviously, they've been having mid lane issues. Golden Glue and trying to switch all
So
these things.
in isolation, I like Mickey to TL because I think he would be an upgrade over Golden Glue and Slushie. He was super inconsistent in the LCK, but people were kind of referencing GBM as an example of import mid laners that don't work. But when GBM first came over, he was smashing. He just got complacent later on, and he got a lot worse while he was in the NA LCS. Mickey's pretty recently an LCK mid laner, so I think he should be good. The thing that I don't like is the fact that how many 80 carries are there? All Tech just randomly got picked up by Team Dignitas during the regular season. Wild Turtle's been switching teams. The fact that they're subbing out Reignover instead of Piglet and it doesn't even seem to be on the table is what blows my mind.
I still want to stay on one by one. Stay on Mickey here for the first one
Let's
because
talk about Mickey.
even to me,
Mickey versus Golden Glue, basically.
I watched or I read the release. There were so many different player things out here. Some were videos, some were typed. But anyways, the Mickey one. The thing that also stood out to me in that one is in his little context that he's giving for the move, why he even wanted to come over here. He dropped off very heavily at the end of his LCK career, and he was actually getting flamed quite a lot by the fan base and not performing that well. And he talks about in his thing, he lost so much of his confidence, and he wants part of him coming here to North America is he's like, I want to show people again. That I can be this aggressive mid laner and I can make this style work. And he talks about trying to rebuild his confidence. And I feel like that might backfire for you over here because
on Team Liquid.
On Team Liquid.
Yeah, exactly.
Rebuild your confidence and be ninth.
So I'm actually super scared for this move, and I feel like they might even backtrack on it, it's good that they're keeping this very big roster because I am very skeptical as to even this first part of the move is going to actually work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially in the TL release saying they picked up Mickey, there was kind of like some almost like felt like passive aggressive comment towards Golden Glue, like now we want to see what we can do with a strong mid laner or something along those lines. And I'm just like, that's so awkward, especially when Mickey. It's not like they just picked up like BDD or Crown or something like that. Like Mickey had not been performing at the highest levels in the LCK. Like statistically, he was one of the lowest, kind of performing mid laners in the league. He was on an okay team. Yes, he could do well, and we did see GBM, like you said, perform very
Mhm.
well until he kind of
And
lost his
GBM was
motivation.
better than Mickey when he came over.
But Mickey has had some very high highs, and I mean, most people, if you are not a follower of the LCK, you know about Mickey because he beat Faker and he trash talked him. That's like probably why you know him,
Woo!
right? And the guy has a big personality. He obviously is very skilled individually, like has a high skill cap. That's kind of to me though. This feels like this does not feel like a long term thing. Maybe TL seems like feels like it is, but I see this as last split, double if coming into TL at the end of the season. It's like, let's make sure we don't get relegated. Let's just like see what we could do. And it feels very thrown together.
Yeah, it definitely does. And another thing that came to my mind when all these teams are picking up all these extra players, and they basically are just that kind of extra players,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
To hold, I guess, is that moving towards franchising. There is this other thing to keep in mind where the teams that do make it in are going to have to also have
academy teams.
an extra academy team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like grab all the players you can now. The best ones they'll try and keep over on the main team, and then all of the rest of them, I guess you can call them, will be the academy team, maybe.
Yeah, will Dardoch be on the Team Liquid Academy team? Because there are so many ridiculous layers to Dardoch going back to Team Liquid, especially with how much trash talk this guy does.
Mm-hmm.
The
Do you have the
stream clip.
quotes?
I know Isaac was listening to it earlier, but he basically said on stream 3 weeks ago that he
Liquid
has
is garbage, and I don't have any respect for them as an organization, players, or team.
That's a direct quote. We're not even exaggerating on that. And I mean, if they're going to play Mickey, they don't have another AD carry. They're playing Dardoch or Nori. So unless this
Yep.
is a spite play just to like take him away from COD because they don't like him, he's going to be starting for the 7th place 4-10 team in the NA LCS.
And I don't think this is like taking him away from CLG. CLG doesn't want him. Like CLG
They
are
burned him on the way out.
Yeah, like in this, some of the quotes and stuff I think from their release are pretty crazy to me. It's like, we brought in Omar God as part of a 6-man roster in order to show Dardoch what a group of 5 people invested in teamwork can accomplish. Like,
And not only that, they repeated like 3 times that he did not, fit into the culture, did not fit into
Yeah.
the attitude. They literally like restated the same line
Yeah.
like in a couple paragraphs.
The quote from Zix, unfortunately could not align with the team's culture. I believe he is still a strong mechanical player and will be able to find a
I
place.
mean,
on
this
another
this
team.
to me is like it's harder to say any more clearly that he was toxic, basically, right? Like didn't fit with the team, couldn't get along with the players. They bring someone else in. They feel like it's going to work better with Omar God. I don't think that CLG wants to make a move like this. They're having a very strong season. Their like self-stated goal for this year is win everything, right? They're looking to Worlds. They're looking to win NA LCS. And making a swap like that does not feel good. And that's like why when we were talking about the Omar God substitutions and stuff last week on the dive, I didn't think that it was just like a rotating sub thing. I assumed that there's problems going on, and this obviously kind of confirms that. But it is crazy, and it's also kind of crazy to me. Like it just almost reeks of desperation that Liquid is willing to take him back after didn't work with him, didn't work with Immortals, didn't work with CLG.
Yeah. If
Is he gonna work on Liquid?
If COG didn't want him, then why not take another shot, right? If Liquid
Because
is,
he's a
if
problematic
Liquid is the
player.
pay to win team, right? If you don't want him, you just don't have him
They
anymore.
need to get a
Like,
refund.
where are the
then. It's not
guarantees in these
working.
league contracts, right?
Yeah.
They just play Anori because they have another Western jungler just waiting there on the team.
I agree, but it's time investment, and he has shown, like, I mean, watch Breaking Point, right? Why not have him on
Oh,
the team,
yep.
right? That's why.
That wasn't very long ago. That was
Exactly, like these are why you don't have a player like that on the team, because they're causing internal strife, they're causing conflicts, they're causing problems, and that can be super toxic. Like he's a great player, his highs can be incredibly high. To me, it just shows he doesn't have the level of maturity that is required to work in a team environment under a ton of pressure, and there is a ton of pressure on someone like that. He never really performed at the level that people expected him to on CLG, despite them doing well as a team. I don't think that he reached the highs that I expected of him and that the community expected of him. Like he was a fine jungler, but he was not carrying CLG in many of these games this season.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how he responds to being on Liquid again. Does he say this sucks? Is he super spiteful? Or does he try and win and be a team player? Because at this point, that's now 3 different organizations that have kind of burned him on the way out. And
Well, they burned him, but he went back to the same one that burned him the biggest and made
you
like that.
cannot burn bridges enough if you're Dardoch, apparently. The burn bridge he got catapulted over it and he's back on the other side. Like but I still really wonder.
He's gonna try.
If
I
he
don't
plays,
think he's like malicious. I just think he can't. He's not mature enough. He can't help himself
But
when he is in the situation.
if he wasn't, so previously, at least on Breaking Point, as we're going to get a tiny little bit gossipy here,
Yeah.
he was raging because his teammates sucked and the team wasn't winning and he wanted to go to Worlds. And that was the big thing that was going to make him so much better on COG is we're all committed to winning, and as long as we're winning, I want to go to Worlds, and that's what's going to motivate me. That's gone.
Mhm.
Team Liquid is not going to Worlds. They're not going to playoffs. They're 4 wins back with 4 to play. They're literally just trying to stay away from relegation. And if the toxic things happened because he was on a bad team or had poor teammates before, how does he fix that now? And I feel like he needs to perform on Team Liquid if any team is going to pick him up again.
I mean, I don't know what Kobe thinks, but to me, I'll let you respond because you haven't really been talking. But it's like at this point, it's time for a shifting in goals and expectations, right? It's do you want to be a pro player anymore, right?
Mhm.
And if you want to be a pro player anymore, you better buckle up, you better smile, you better work hard because like you don't keep getting chances. Eventually, no one will pick him up.
So I would at least give him kind of the benefit of the doubt that the issues on CLG are not the exact things that we saw on Breaking Point, because that
Yep,
was
yep.
like super extreme.
Mhm.
So I feel like I would give him the benefit of the doubt that he's, making moves in the right direction. They are very clearly not enough though.
Yep.
Because Zix also, he tweeted out on his personal Twitter this list of basically attitude of a winner or something like that. It's like a 10 item long
Was
list
this
of
yesterday or
of it was this
recent?
I saw it this morning or something.
Okay.
I'm looking for it right now, but it basically says, being able to take feedback, having, working through problems, stuff like this that are like really team player mentality and working through criticism.
Do you want me to read it out? I have it here.
There you go. Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
Like,
10
you don't have to do
ways
all
to
of them,
develop a
but-
growth mindset. Value the process over the end result. Acknowledge imperfections. Embrace struggle and difficulty. View challenges as opportunities. Place effort before talent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
You get the idea.
And it continues with like more buzzwords, but
When was that tweeted?
you get the idea.
Like yesterday.
Okay, so pretty much
You
when they announced
retweeted
it.
It was clear to
tweeted
me
a
that
day
this
ago.
is
This
a
is-
direct like explanation. So anyways, it feels like maybe Dardoch is on the right path, because they did at least give him credit for really motivating everybody right when he joined the team, because he's so competitive.
Yeah.
However, they very clearly ran into roadblocks as far as it seems centering around feedback or working through issues. And so maybe it's something along those lines.
And the thing is, I like watching Dardoch. I want to see him in the league, and
He's
I
great.
do want to see him succeed. I think it's a good story. I think if he is finally able to stick with the team for more than a split and like they find success, that's going to be super cool. And we know how competitive he is. As long as he's using that motivation in a good way rather than lashing out to other people, which may be happening, then I still feel like he'd be able to succeed because we know how good he can be.
I do think that this is maybe the most difficult team to do that on, though. Like, I think he is.
Yeah.
It's in a bad situation.
This is the most
for him
difficult
now.
situation I think he's ever been put in.
All right, let's move on to the third one, though, because with all the Team Liquid moves,
Yeah.
people, may not have noticed the TSM one, which I thought was super interesting because it feeds into something that Azel has been pretty passionate about talking about, and the way that teams are using subs. Team Liquid is pretty clearly like trying to grab a whole bunch to try and find just whatever best combination they can possibly get to try and get some wins on the board. And then maybe use the rest of them for an Academy League or something like that later.
Yeah.
But TSM, in their video, they are going back to something that we have heard from teams before where, oh yeah, they're super excited to sign Mr. Rales because he looks at the game completely different from Double F. And he learns so much from Double F. And Double F learns so much from him. And, they have different ideas about, this style of play, or they're going to, look at macro differently and be able to really build off each other. Did you watch the actual video, Azael? Or
haven't seen the
all right,
TSM sub
that's
video.
just the gist of it,
Okay.
though. What are your kind of reactions to that? Because you've been talking about this stuff for a long time.
Yeah, I've been talking about this a lot. Like I'm kind of tilted by the whole like roster stuff and the way that people talk about these subs and these players and stuff that are coming in. Because I think that teams are being super disingenuous a lot of the time. And I get that you can't just put someone on blast and be like, Dardoch's toxic. We're gonna try out Omar out this week, guys. But teams are coming in and they're saying, oh yeah, we're really focused on building a deep roster and this is how we're going to do it. And different skill sets for different players. They're going to play different champions, blah, blah, blah. And then you talk to some of the teams. Like I've talked to some of the managers and stuff, Liquid, for example, one of the managers wanted to chat and wanted to give us some information for broadcast. And it's like, oh, sweet. Okay, well, why are you trying these two different players? They play different champions? No. Well, what are their different strengths? Well, they're pretty similar. It's like, well, what are the
How do you
reasons
decide
for
who plays? Scrims.
exactly scrimps? How do you decide who plays? Well, this guy had a couple more kills on Corky than that guy. Okay, great, sweet. Like this does this.
That's
You are
not a
not
direct quote.
that is not a sub. That is not a sub. Like this is not a sub situation. This is you are doing tryouts actively on the LCS thing, and I have no problem with that. But be straight up about it. Say, hey, we're searching for the right solution for our team. We're looking to see what works best, and that's what we're going to go with, right? And if that is what it is, then sure. But these are not like subs. These are just tryouts. They're just looking for a replacement.
I think there's a little bit to that. Yes, you're always looking for the best starter for your team, and you're always looking to put yourself in the best position to succeed. Sometimes when there's two players that are really close, if one guy's having a good week and the other guy's not having a good week, you could actively have a six-man roster in that way. But I haven't seen any team, at least recently in NA, actually use the strategic six-man roster.
What about
Oh,
Cloud9?
this guy brings... I don't think that's worked very well for them at all. They've tried. They've tried the whole sword shield thing, but I feel like then they put Ray on Shen, and you wonder what they're doing.
Yeah. To me, I think it's a pretty interesting point that you bring up, and I try and put myself in the player's shoes and like how does it feel and how do you see yourself improving and how would you work through if you every day are supposed to be teaching and learning from your position with this one other person that also has the possibility
Future
to
replacement.
permanently bench you. Like the teams are very clear, and all the coaches have all the time been like, yes, whoever's playing better or whoever gives us the best chance to win is gonna be in. Like,
Yeah.
if your success in being a good teammate and teaching this other person all of your secrets and everything that you think about the game, do you start to even subconsciously hold things back when you're talking to them or
It's
try and like keep whatever is unique about you separate from them so that you can actually retain starter spot?
it puts him in a really difficult situation because I know when I was getting good in league and even a lot of pro players talk to each other cross team because you can gain a lot by hearing their opinions on picks and how they're starting in the jungle and how they're ruining and just having conversations with people in role. So in a theoretical world, having that in-house so you're not sharing strategies with other teams is good. But then you bring up what Kobe's just talking about with this history of like how many back and forth subs have we actually seen? Altec and Adrian are crushing with Dignitas. Are we going to see Big and Laud next week because they're a seven-man roster? No. So what type of learning is actually rewarding these guys is a struggle that these teams need to be able to answer if they want these environments to work.
And when I put myself in that situation, when I think to all my years as a pro and stuff, there was pretty much no quicker way to tilt me than to compare me to someone else doing the same thing. It's like, oh, Kobe, well, yeah, it didn't work out for you that jungle game. We'll just look at what Jat does. Jat does it better than you. So if you could just do that next game, we'll do better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, yes, maybe there's some players that are motivated by bringing in the new guy and he's going to light a fire under your ass or whatever. But, like, to me, that feels of a lack of confidence. And if my teammates do not have confidence in me, like, that is very detrimental. And there are going to be some players that you feel like it's an even give and take, right? But what if Kobe's my sub and I don't feel like he's just mechanically better than me, but I know more about the game? What is he going to really teach me? Is he going to teach me how to move my mouse faster?
Be better, dum-dum.
Exactly. Like then it's a one-way street. Like I'm giving you my like strategical prowess or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, try click faster, bro. You suck. And it's like, okay, sweet. But if it's equal, maybe.
So
but there's so few circumstances.
Let me pitch you guys on something because I did not start this conversation empty-handed.
Okay.
My idea going into it was, first of all, how do I make both players, feel confident, feel safe in their job or in their position or whatever? I would theorize that you would have more success if, yes, you're bringing in this other super high caliber 80. Let's use this for example, the 80 carry or whatever. If Mr. Raleigh is confident and secure in his position as a positional coach.
Right.
Because people have had positional coaches before, right? But they're usually like analysts that just look
Who's
like
the Cloud9 guy.
look
that
at
came in
you look at like Westrice actually.
Yeah, Kane, but then he went over to Team Liquid. And then
Doesn't
Westrice is
Cloud9 have a positional jungle coach
or a
I'm
jungle
trying to
coach
think.
or whatever.
Lulex.
Yeah, Lulex.
There you go.
But that's
Lulex.
also
the
when
pathing
Jensen
guy.
becomes an on-import, there's a chance he's playing. So there's that to it as well.
Yep.
So, anyways, Lulex. Let's use Lulex as the example because he's actually picked up as the positional coach. Now, this does work as long as the other player doesn't have those lofty aspirations of being on stage and having that spotlight and climbing to the top. I still feel like whether that's the case and there's like a little bit of I wish I was the one on stage. I feel like you would get more out of it if going into it, both of them had clear and like guaranteed salaries and guaranteed spots of you're the player, you're the positional coach. Now I feel good sharing everything I possibly can so that we as a team win.
Yeah, and as long as they have kind of structures in place. So if you look at subs in traditional sports, those happen for various different reasons. Like the NBA, you have 5 players on the court at the same time, but fatigue is a thing, so you actually need other people on the roster. But you're usually only running an 8 or 9 man rotation, and it's a 12-person roster. So some of those guys are around for injury. Some of those guys are 37 years old and are actually just kind of coaches in disguise, where they're trying to just be a locker room presence or good theory for the team or teach people tips. That's kind of where I see League of Legends subs going in the right way. So if Rales comes in from Doublelift, if they're telling Rales, hey, your job is to actually play solo queue, talk to other 80 carries, and tell Doublelift what to do. And if Doublelift super slacks, then you're going to get to play, but don't expect to.
Yeah.
And they kind of tell that to both people. Then I think the sub situation is super good, right? And I think it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, clear expectations. I think a long-term contract, right? Like if Kobe, great, you're faster on the mouse than me, but I'm signed for 3 years, my money is guaranteed. Then maybe I'm more willing to teach you because then
Thank you, sir.
I'm committing to the success of the team, right?
As long as they're telling the players what they're being measured on as well.
Yeah.
Because if they're telling them you're being measured on if you come into the LCS and win, and that's all you're good for, then that's going to create a combative environment.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be good. Sometimes you actually want certain personalities to do that. But I agree with you. The messaging has been wildly inconsistent with subs in NA.
Let's bring it back to that then, because do you, for this specific one, feel like TSM is giving you the BS that you've heard before,
The turtle double lift
or do you
story?
actually think that like there's a chance Doublelift gets benched for Mr. Raleigh, or is this kind of Reggie's buying up 80 carries for academy teams, when people want them or something?
I see this as door number 3. I see this as the academy team is being built early, and like Mr. Raleigh is a good player, and I'm sure that they think that there could be some value there. But do I think that Doublelift is going to be having him behind him, like, all right, yeah, now click on the minion, okay, now shoot this guy, buy a Phantom Dancer? No, I don't. I don't think he's actually like.
You should build a static
I don't think that he's a
really.
positional coach, really. I'm sure that it's great if they have a good relationship, they will talk and they will hopefully learn from that. But I see this as an academy pickup. If this was, maybe if this was like Sven or something and they got a pretty big name jungler who was coming in, I'd be like, ooh, maybe his spot isn't safe because people have talked about Sven not performing as well. But Doublelift, I think most people feel is safe, and maybe that's just me being ignorant about the internal situation TSM. But I think Doublelift, because he has performed at such a high level as a player, is probably safe from actually just getting bopped.
Who do you think is going to start for Liquid this week? Is it going to be Dardoch and Mickey?
Can Mickey start this week?
I don't know.
Is he here?
We're getting close to the lottery odds. Like to get all of them right. What are the?
Pick their starting roster. There are 11 different players with 27 different configurations.
Yeah, now they have 40.
I mean, if everyone is here and everyone is like healthy and blah 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 blah, I'm assuming it's Lorlo, Dardoch, Mickey, and then the same. It's Matt and Piglet in the bot lane.
Yeah,
that's what I'm assuming.
That's the very last thing I want to talk about, and we're kind of going for full circle. Why aren't we subbing Piglet out ever? This dude has been the one constant on this 8th place team for the past year and a half.
Freak put him like top 80 carry or
Freak
top
put him in 8th
3.
tier. That's why. That's the whole reason.
That's why.
But
Steve's like, interesting. He's an 8th tier 80 carry. Where's the rest of my team? Oh, not so good. You're out of there, Golden Glue.
how did they not sign Altec or Wild Turtle or a non-import 80 carry if they're going to get a Korean mid?
This has been my question with a lot of teams. Sometimes, it's like when we talked about Echo Fox and stuff, when people have been like, oh, they're struggling with 80 carries. Well, they missed Wild Turtle, they missed Altec, they missed all these things. So sometimes maybe the teams don't want to spend the money. Maybe they don't. Maybe the team, like players on that team do not think that would be a good fit, or could be any number of things. But Piglet, for whatever reason, although outside, I feel like most people think that he is not working, and he obviously is a problem because he's been a constant with all these rosters and Team Liquid has sucked for basically 2 years now. But obviously he either is in with the coaches or the management, or they're like maybe it's the like kind of sunk cost fallacy where it's like, we put so much into Piglet, like we got to make this work. He's really talented, you know?
He has been playing a little better this split than last split.
I can interject some rumors here that might help, but like
Okay.
I heard that the price of AD carries did skyrocket.
Yeah.
As far as
I heard that
North
too.
America, you know, when you're talking about Wild Turtle and stuff floating around,
Mhm.
I heard that the price for that position, you know, is at a premium in North America, so
Mhm.
that may have been some of the struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree.
Liquid has an expensive roster. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is Reignover? Is Reignover just getting dropped now? You know, like
Uh,
people talked about Reignover, biggest offseason move ever, highest played player in the West. Now he's on the bench, and they have Honori, who at one point was big ticket jungler. You know,
Mhm.
Darlock still has a big name. They have 3 mid laners. Like Liquid, by what people talk about, Liquid apparently pays people very well and blah blah
Yep.
blah. So it's like if you're playing all these guys pretty well, you have so many players on the team. You assume for someone like Mickey to come over, he's getting a pretty big check, right? Usually a Korean import is going to
Usually
get a
pretty
big
highly
amount of
paid.
money.
Yep.
Do they keep the players? If you're Liquid, do you keep Reignover to like keep him away from other teams? Do you drop him to save the money? What do you guys think?
They remind me of the New York Knicks right now. They just spend a bunch of money and haven't been winning. I don't know what they do, man. I think in the offseason, depending on I don't know how many years Reignover's contract is or how the
Mhm.
guarantees work in these things. We're not privy to any of that information. I think if it's a 1-year contract, they're not re-signing him for anywhere close to the same money because he's fallen apart. But I do think they've gotten a head start on the Academy League if they make it into the LCS next year, and I think they'll keep the players. For
Yeah,
the most
that's the
part.
thing about contracts. Like they can't just break it now and be like, "Oh, you're not good anymore. We're not going to have you."
They could
So
try to trade him.
give me some of that money back.
Could try to
Yeah,
trade
you
him,
could
though.
try and sell them.
Yeah.
I feel like selling them, also kind of is on the same downward curve as like, as
Yeah.
far as
Loss on
trying
investment.
to convince. Yeah, exactly. Trying to convince people. Anyway, we should probably get in there to the meta.
There was a
But,
lot to talk about, but we have a lot more actually. Urgot release as well as patch 7.
We didn't even talk about Omar God. We could touch on him in NA LCS though, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll touch on Omar God in a bit. Right now, Urgot release. What do you think of the 6-knee shotgun man?
For me, I'll go first, I guess. For me, I was looking at the kit and I was like, "Oh, percentage health here, percentage health there, percentage health damage. Whoa, his ultimate kills you at 25%. The
What
ultimate
percentage health damage?
everything else to me was like kind of boring to walking up to that point. And then I saw the ultimate and I was like, "Oh my god, he's actually the tank killer." And it's tank meta right now or whatever. So he can like shotgun knee you with a whole bunch of percentage health, and then he ults you and he can kill you if you're 25% or below. I want to, play him and like see how it feels and how it actually is, with he does have short ranges and stuff to work around. But
Yeah.
to me, I was immediately like, great. I'm definitely going to see him in some games as long as his numbers are okay because he's perfectly situated to kill a front line.
Yeah, I watched his spotlight this morning, and also his numbers are up on League Wiki. I think his numbers are pretty good. 205 base damage at max rank Q plus 70% base AD. So that's pretty much a 300 damage spell on a relatively low cooldown. The shotgun needs 2% health. And at first I was like, yo, it's going to be really implausible to get a lot of your shotgun knees off. But I think you can get 2 to 3 face up.
Yeah.
And then if you hit him with your E, you get 2 or 3 more. So I actually think he's going to be pretty strong in melee matchups. I think things like Kennen will probably still beat him up in the top lane or longer range champions. But I do feel like Juggernaut-wise, his numbers are tuned to a spot where he should be pretty good.
So my concern for any champion like this, as far as the transition to competitive play, is I think he's gonna be very strong in solo queue. I'm not sure if he's gonna be in competitive or not because similarly, Swain, Kale, guys like this are incredible in solo queue, but you're so easy to get ganked. The way you win lane is you push them in, you bully them under turret, these sorts of things. Even Urgot top is incredibly hard to lane against for a lot of matchups, even the old Urgot. But you're so gankable, and maybe it's harder to actually gank this new Urgot, and maybe he can kind of get away with that because he has the charge and because he has some of these extra things in his kit. But that would be my major concern on if he gets played.
Yeah, that was 100% what I was going to point to though. Like one of his favorite moves, actually, I don't know what to call it, like the
Disdain.
arm dunk or whatever.
The
over
arm dunk.
backwards.
That's what we'll call
You
it.
can use it backwards, right? So
Yeah.
you know, he technically has more, you know,
Is
escapes
that targeted
than
though?
before. No, you can, because they showed in the
It's a target
spotlight.
direction.
He did
Oh,
it.
okay.
He
Yeah.
did it into a wall. So
Okay.
It's
you
a
know, you
target
don't-
direction. He has an activatable shield, and he has Juggernaut stats.
Yeah,
So his
so I
base
think,
health is like 600.
I think he's in there,
I-
and he's for
yeah.
sure positioned as his tank killer. I think he's got a very clear use. So even if he's not perma pick ban or whatever, if his numbers aren't off the roofs, I
Yeah.
think that there will be use cases for him tank killing. Because man, I can't get over this ultimate 25%
So,
health.
I don't know if you guys have heard this, but so one thing with the ultimate that's very funny is so it's a 25% health execute. If
Mhm.
Braum shield intercepts this, it executes him from 100% HP.
That's a bug.
No, it's listed as not a bug. It was tweeted.
Oh,
it was tweeted
really?
by a Riot QA person as saying this is intended.
I
This
do not want to play
because
Braum
this is a
anymore.
blocked spell. So they're blocking the like 100% the execute
No.
your dead spell, and there's a gif of it happening, and they're like, "This is intended." So
So wait, can I also
I don't believe
wait?
you,
Can
but
I
yeah.
also if somebody walks into the meat grinder
Looking
while
this
he's
up.
just like he's
I
pulling
don't think
somebody
so
in?
because
That would be
because
hilarious.
It intercepts a targeted spell, so he absorbs it. So if I shoot at you and you're 25%, and Jet's like, "I'll save you," and then
Where
he
did
just
you
dies.
find this? I'm trying to find it on Reddit right now.
It's not on Reddit. It was actually tweeted to us. Someone tweeted it to us, and it was like Gosicki, who's one of the guys who works on Riot QA. He worked on Urgot and said it was intended.
Okay.
We can look at it later, and maybe that won't stay that way.
I don't think that
I love it.
stays.
That's what you get for trying to be a hero all the time, Braum.
But
Boom, dead.
I was just like, that is actually hilarious. Okay, here.
No,
this-
I think
this
I
is
remember
not-
seeing the video.
This is the tweet from the Riot guy. This is not a bug. If you decide to block Urgot chains with Bromwall, you die. The ultimate support sacrifice has arrived.
Is that a real account that tweeted that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I know the guy.
Okay, I believe you now. I have fundamental problems with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so do I. But
Yeah.
but that works.
I love it.
Can you imagine though how like Braum is played a lot in competitive? You would literally just be saving your ult to try to hit him with
Oh,
anytime
yeah.
he uses E, you just chain his butt and he's just gonna die from full. Like that's hilarious.
Anyway,
Uh,
I think when he's available to play in pro,
Yeah.
I usually wait to like see the numbers and see how it plays out. I think these numbers make him pretty playable on day one. So as a top lane juggernaut, another big thing, patch 7.15
Mhm.
was a bunch of small changes. Essentially, this one. Small nerfs to a lot of the meta champions and small buffs to things that could potentially be on the outside of the meta.
I was just going down the line. I was like, oh, cool. They're taking a more level hand at this one. A little bit off here, a little bit on there, a little bit off here. And then I get to Sivir. And Sivir was already making her way back into the meta. You know, tanks like to engage. They like to have a bunch of AoE speed. And then you get down here to the Q. They add 30 base damage onto just one half. This is a spell that can hit twice, by the way.
Yep.
And it starts at level 1. Boom, smack. 30 more damage onto that each pass that you get. So that one just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, okay, Sivir is totally in there. 100% now.
I'm going to devil's advocate the Sivir one a little bit.
Okay.
This spell has a lot of fall off damage and is heavily mana constrained early in lane. If Sivers are shoving early, they're shoving with Ricochet. And if they shove with Ricochet and Boomerang Blade, they're going to after 2 or 3 waves. So I don't think it's as big as it seems. If Sivir comes back into meta, it's because of tank comps, support changes, and little bit this. Unless I got a wrong read and Sivir starts solo killing people at level 2. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think it actually makes that.
Here's the thing. Even if you're not solo killing people at level 2, that's an enormous amount of base
60?
damage.
This is possible. 60 more damage level 1, Jack.
No, it's actually not, because even if it's passing backwards, it's already falling off. It has pretty substantial fallout no matter how many things it hits.
Maybe
I
like
mean,
40 or 50.
58!
Yeah, like-
Sivir's still in there already. We're starting to see Sivir. So if people are always like already realizing Sivir is good with tanks, this is certainly gonna like give it a kick in the pants. Where you're
People are
gonna see Sivir
definitely even
probably a
going to
lot.
try it if it's already good, and that's going to push it over.
But
I think this boosts her by 1% win rate.
All right, we'll check
I
the
think it's more-
tapes.
I think
We'll
it's
check
more
the
than that.
tapes on this one.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's gonna be more than one.
You know what popped out to me though? You're saying you're scrolling down. It's like, okay, like a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there. You know what popped out to me? 30% magic damage reduction on Mundo when your E is
Yeah, man.
maxed. What
With
is
no
that?
other nerfs. It's a buff.
That to me is I don't like these changes. I mean, it's emphasizing strengths. You know, we want to talk about they talk about like have clear strengths, have clear weaknesses and stuff. I just feel like Mundo is in this place where, and people who are exceptionally reliant on sustaining healing are in this place in general, but like Mundo even more is reliant on his regen, where it's like, oh, someone bought an Executioner's Calling, well, you're crap. Oh, they didn't, well, you're godlike. And because of that, there's already matchups where he is very strong, like playing him top lane and stuff.
Mhm.
Like I loved playing him into Rumble. He's incredibly good into that matchup. We even saw it in competitive sometimes because he could already smash those kind of matchups because he wants to build the Spirit Visage first. And those kinds of champions, like what's Rumble going to build for the healing debuff, right? Is he going to build an Executioners? Is he going to build Morellas? Both those suck on Rumble. So great, he's good in that matchup. Now you take a matchup like that or like Swain, where, and you essentially are giving him like 30% reduced magic damage taken. This
Mhm.
also, the way it's
So,
reading should
at-
work on his W
At
too.
max rank E, it's 30%.
Yeah.
You're always maxing Q first on Mundo. When I jump
I
at
don't think
Mundo, I
you
max
have to
W
anymore.
second. And this is the last thing. So at least in lane, by the way, this does work with his W. So if you're 3K health Mundo and you keep your W on all the time and regen, you're just getting, no matter how many points you need, that percentage in magic resist. So I think it's a very clear buff, but I think he was already good in those matchups and no other nerfs. This might actually push him into the meta.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It just feels bad where it's like I feel like it creates this thing where it's like, oh, you picked Rumble before they picked their top laner. Well, you get absolutely slammed by Mundo now. Like I don't like that feeling.
Well, I
and
don't
it's-
think you're going to be putting enough points in E to change the
I think you
matchup
will.
that much. You
I-
think you're going to max E in lane against Rumble?
Yeah.
But then you're never even going to be able to stack up your magic resist because you're not going to keep your W on that early in the game because you don't have the regen yet.
You take
I
the
think
damage
you
from
get these-
from a flame spitter. Like if he pops
Yeah.
flame spitter with Deathfire, you're at full stacks essentially. Like you're gonna stack up instantly against champions like Swain, like Rumble. Like that's instantaneous.
How
If
many
you-
points do you put in E as Mundo in lane?
I mean, you like it's not unreasonable. I max it second when I play Mundo always in lane, and I think with this buff in AP matchups, I would probably max it first, or at least you could put 3, right? Like if you put 3 points into it, then you can be getting 18% less magic damage taken.
Yeah.
When you're on a cowl or even like a Spirit Visage, like plus Adaptive Helm is getting buffed, which is all the champions that you would want to build.
I think
build this
Adaptive
against
Helm
anyway.
buff is sick, but I think if you max E in lane against Rumble, you get smashed. Rumble's just going to harpoon you. You're never going to be able to hit him or do any damage.
I disagree. You can still use the slow from Q, and like your E trading is one of the strongest parts. But
Yeah.
like I
Okay.
think this is like, and I've played like a lot of Mundo top. Like it's one of the champions I have played a lot in ranked. But I think-
Regardless, though, this is 100% kind of like you're talking about positioning him as the anti-magic tank. So,
Mhm.
and I kind of like that to a degree. If now that we have 10 bans and you have to think more about the chess pieces of, oh, do we have to ban out Mundo if we want to run, double solo lane APs and stuff like that? But then, as you're saying, it does get to a point where it's boring if it's effortless for a champion to be like,
Yep, it will
"Oh,
be.
super,
Mhm.
basically immune to magic damage or something, and like you have to ban that out if you're running this comp or something.
Yeah.
As long as
I
there's
don't- I
still
don't-
some wiggle
I don't
room.
think this puts him there.
Yeah.
I agree with the theory that if that's the case, it's dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like it does. We'll see. Like especially with if you want to do the stuff where it's like Maokai and Cho'Gath and stuff like that, or
Mhm.
Sejuani and Maokai and whatever. If you do like your jungler is dealing AP and your top laner is dealing AP, I think you can pick Mundo in those situations and like almost be immune to death. Like it's already felt like that when I was playing against multiple AP comps on live
Mhm.
without this buff. And even if I'm putting no points in this, like just the one, and I think you could easily put a couple in.
Yeah, if you put 1 point in, the stacks to 6%.
I do have some math for you. I looked it up. It's only a 15% fall off for Sivir's Q.
Okay.
So 50%.
So 50% per target?
Yes.
Up to how many?
Up to 40%.
Okay.
If like what? I have a Morgana or something in my
15%
lane.
of the
He
third.
lands
Oh,
the
if
bind.
you land a binding and you
So
get
you
the
talked
Q.
about the max
Mm.
damage. 15% of just level 1 boomerang base damage is 55. So that would only take off 8.25 damage.
Well, it wouldn't be of
Yeah.
it would only be of the second pass.
From the
It would
maximum-
be even less.
No, it's 8.
Right?
8 on the second pass.
Oh.
8 damage.
Okay, okay, okay.
15%
Okay.
of 55 would
Yeah.
be 8.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm talking about the
And that's
really.
if it goes through no minions.
That's not even taking into account the attack damage ratio.
Yeah,
So-
it's some good stuff on there. I agree with you. Sivir could be pretty good.
All right.
The reason I'm not super crazy on this is I got to sit in on some of these meetings because this is targeted towards being like a Worlds or like more esports patch. 7:15 is going to be the last week of LCS. 7:16 will be playoffs, and then 7:17 or 7:18 is going to be Worlds. So they're trying to get the meta kind of shaped now, so there's not massive disruptive changes like there have been in past years, which was pretty cool. And I remember, like I raised an eyebrow to these Sivir buffs. I said, was this a little bit much?
Mhm.
And they said, Robert X. Lee's play tested this a lot. He says it's cool. And I was like, all right, I trust Robert
So
for this one a little bit.
Here's the thing with playtest, and this is coming from someone who was on playtest for
Yeah.
over a year. It's very easy to be wrong about things.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and people are consistently wrong about things because you
Dude,
put it out on
I
live. and
balanced
there's-
like 6 of the release champions
yeah.
4 years
I
ago.
like-
I totally understand how
Robert's saying that
playtesting
it's
works.
balanced doesn't mean anything. That's all I'm saying.
I like
It-
these
it
quotes.
helps.
Because now we have Jats, it's much easier to lose than to win all
Yeah.
of your games. And then we have Azealos, it is easy to be wrong.
Yeah,
It is
it's
easy to
very
be
easy
wrong.
to be wrong.
So-
Well,
some good
obviously,
stuff.
if the playtesters were right 100% of the time and the designers always listen to the playtesters, everything will be balanced.
And to be
always.
clear, I think
So
they do a
obviously.
really good job.
There we go.
Especially Robert.
I think that they actually do. And I have liked the balance of the game, and they are reactive, and that stuff is good. But it's very hard to be right when stuff comes out and right on the nose with changes.
Oh, yeah.
And if it is super OP, they'll change it, right?
And also, the difficulties are a lot of these things are trying to be balanced before the meta's necessarily taken shape. Because
Mhm.
we just got to see, the way the pro scene reacts to 7.14 2 days ago. The patch was
Yeah.
already locked. None of these changes are reactive to what happened last week. So there's a chance that Sivir didn't even need the buffs and ends up getting nerfed in the next patch in 7.16. So either way, I am skeptical as to Sivir's and Moondo's
All right, Jad, what's
prowesses.
yours then? We each picked out one. What do you got? What popped out for you?
Man, I was just devil's advocating. So Akali's a little scary to me for solo queue, mainly because I was seeing her taking off a little bit before. That's not a main one. I want to see if Nasus makes it in. Because he got a lot of changes. Instead of a flat armor reduction, it's a % armor reduction on his Spirit Fire. And also, while he's ulted, he gets to Q twice as much because his cooldown is reduced. Nasus gets kited like a madman in pro play, but if we see Maokai played top lane, I think Nasus is really good into him.
And Sivir.
So
The speed.
the-
And Sivir with his speed could help.
Nasus, I think it's another guy I like to play top lane sometimes. My biggest issue with him is his early game is so insanely bad that
Which is why if you're laning against Maokai, you're
But
chilling.
even if you're laning against Maokai's actually trading and stuff is actually not that bad early. And if you get ganked, you can get put just to where it's oh god, my game is actually over. It's tough in the early game.
Your mini point on Akali before you jumped off though, I was gonna say I do like that one because I know that multiple LCS top laners, at least from watching their streams, have even for months now been playing top lane Akali. And so we keep preparing every week. I was like, is this going to be the week we get to Akali? I got so much stuff for Akali to say now. And they still, they never pulled it out. I really hope that this is the one that either reminds them, oh yeah, I had so much fun with Akali, or it's so good, let's practice it in scrims again. Or maybe this will just be the little nudge that makes them actually play her, because I'm so ready for Akali, at least to make an entrance into the game.
Yeah.
I do think that people might get tired of her quick, because as you're saying, solo queue, you get that feeling when, she's just chasing everyone down. It's kind of annoying, but I do think that now, this is the week, even after multiple months.
The start of summer, I was expecting Akali to come in because Ray and Impact were both spamming it. I was like, yeah, C9 is going to do it.
And someday, everybody.
And here's the difference since the last time Akali was in pro play. I think it's a pretty good Narc counter, and it's good with Galio. But B, the trivial counters that used to keep Akali out of pro when she was dominating in solo queue, like putting a control ward or a pink ward into her Twilight Shroud to reveal her and kill her, don't work anymore. She's actually invisible when she's in that. So there are more outplays you can do, or she's not as easily counterplayed in pro, which is why she could actually exist in competitive and be somewhat samely balanced as it would be in solo queue.
I'm still waiting for more of the solo queue counters to make their way into pro. Immediately when I think of Akali, I'm like, Swain. If I ever see that in solo queue, I play Swain into it. Absolutely slams it.
Because you put Laser Bird inside the circle and it takes a bunch of damage.
She cannot, she gets pushed in. She gets, zoned off all the CS under a turret. She can't do anything. It's, miserable.
Yeah.
And Swain smashes Gnar. Swain smashes a number of these matchups. And so I'm always wondering, when are picks like that gonna come out? Because, yes, you are gankable. Yes, there are weaknesses. But if you want to play to that side, I feel like there are some really tough matchups. And we saw a little bit of it. We saw Pantheon into, what was it, Fiora or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, to me, especially when you ever always keep bringing Swain, I just feel like these champions that are so simple and you can only, they're so one-dimensional, basically. It makes it, like you're saying, play the rest of the pro game so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Swain does not have great wave clear. Swain, kind of has to walk into these team fights. People are gonna build Executioner's Calling. There's kind of things stack up. That was also, by the way, if we're looking back to 7.14, and Azale was talking about Garen being busted and gonna come in and
Busted.
smash top lane.
I didn't think I never said in competitive.
We'll
I
check.
said,
Well, okay, that's true. That's true.
I said in solo queue.
We'll check the tapes, but yeah, that's true. We'll give you the
No, for
competitive
sure,
one.
for sure. I thought he's good in solo queue, and I still
But-
think he's pretty good.
the
Go
champions.
back and listen to how
The champions
enthusiastic
that are
you were about
just
that.
too simple, I don't think those ones kind of ever
What
make their
about your boy
way
Quas?
into pro play.
Oh, he's playing it in
Allow
Challenger. Is
is
that
not
not pro?
simple.
Does that not
Is he,
count?
wait, was he playing Garen in Challenger?
No, Swain.
Oh, Swain.
He plays a lot of Swain.
Oh,
games
He's
yeah,
been
in
playing
Challenger.
that for decades
yeah.
at this point.
But not even just Swain. Solo queue counters in general. Like I've been waiting for Yasuo and Dinar to come back. I've been waiting for like these sorts of picks because sometimes I think they're really good and have even been shown in pro play.
Yeah.
But if it goes bad, it goes so bad, and I think people are
Yeah.
hesitant to put in the time.
That's the thing. Lane counters only work so far as they still fit into the team composition.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't see them in pro
Yeah,
because
totally.
the team composition matters so much. Good with the patch?
Good with the
Good with
patch.
patch.
Let's check in on North American LCS. We have 6 teams that are 4 wins ahead of the bottom half of the standings. So I'm a little disappointed about that, personally.
Are you?
Yeah, I like having intrigue down the stretch, but what it would do is creates kind of a more clear playoff divide, and then the other teams are fighting for promotion.
And so while like the interest level of the games, you can say, it's not as competitive, doesn't mean as much down the split. Like, so what I'm excited for is I'm hoping for competitive quarterfinals and semifinals, right?
Mhm.
That's what I want to get out of this because very often you go into the quarters and it's like, well, this team hasn't been good in so long. They're about to get slammed. Okay, they got slammed. Now let's go to the semifinals. And maybe we have enough teams that are within that kind of striking distance that could have some really exciting playoff matches.
Yeah. The exciting thing to me about it, and maybe the pro of, down the stretch, our games might not be as exciting as to who's getting
Mhm.
in. It does make me kind of excited because I feel like, there isn't within those 6. 6 is a pretty big number to be in a kind of close competitive space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Usually we're like, all right, 1 or 2 teams at the top. It's always either TSM and Cloud9 or just TSM or TSM and CLG or something like that. And then we have to go to another, level pretty quickly. But TSM got upset, they were talking about not being, very happy with how they adjusted to this patch. And that's kind of a theme with them. So there are themes that are running through. And I feel like I'm excited whenever I see kind of any of these basically top 6 teams play against each other. And it makes me feel like the possibilities for upsets are very real.
Yeah.
Almost even kind of looking forward to them.
The one team I'm not super hyped about is Envy, and I want to see how they close out the season because strength of schedule-wise, they have by far the hardest schedule yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose out the split, and then that would
Cloud9
make
has
them
a
go
really
in at
easy
8 and
one,
10.
too.
And Cloud9 has a really easy schedule, and they're tied with Envy at the standings. So
Yeah.
while it feels really tightly packed now, I kind of think we're going to have the situation where the 6th place team is potentially kind of a level below, in which case it makes it really important to get the 3rd seed and the 2nd
Yeah.
seed, and then all those seeds will matter.
That's what I was going to say is seeding is actually going to be really important among these teams. If you can get, so there's like, for the most part, people have been talking about 3 teams competing for, the top 2 spots, right?
Yeah.
With CLG, Immortals, TSM, and getting that top 2 spot means you get a bye, which is very, very big. Also, I agree that the 3rd versus 6th is going to be really hard. Because the 6th place team is usually the worst, and the 3rd place team should be like a slight tier above those next couple teams, right? So getting even 5th versus 6th could be a big deal because you may have a much easier first round opponent.
Just because it's insane. Envy plays CLG, TSM, Immortals, and Cloud9 for the last 4 games.
The thing that always does, I still get excited for Envy games. Not to the degree of maybe the other matchups of those top 6, but I still get excited just because I'm literally like, this is the Lyra show. Like, I want to see how ridiculous this guy is, because Apollo just came out, I think it was Apollo, in another interview. We've always talked about, Lyra is actually just mechanical genius. Look at him doing so well in the jungle, even when whatever lanes are losing or the team's having so many problems. Then he also has this another level of, they're like, our coach doesn't live with us. We don't really have, much coaching support. So Lyra is teaching us about the game. And Lyra, not only is he beasting in the games, he's getting off all these ganks. He's got ridiculous, jungle stats, especially for being on a losing team. He's also, teaching them game theory and macro. And it just seems
crazy.
like with the thing,
That's a
the
valuable player.
the legends are just continually compounding. And I'm always kind of on Lyra watch when I watch this team play.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a tangent here, but we are getting towards the end of the split. MVP voting is going to be on people's minds. It is very
Ooh.
competitive. How much does that affect, like, what kind of emphasis you put on him, right? Bjergsen, great. Jensen, awesome in lane. Lyra, if he's the coach and he's a good player, and the team went from like being pretty bad to being pretty good, how much credit is Lyra's, right? Like, Violet is essentially a life coach. Like
Yeah.
he is helping them have good schedules and training them and helping in different ways. But if Lyra is the legit coach, like, how much value is there on that?
Yeah.
If they finish top 3 or something, if they go through that gauntlet that we just talked about and win a bunch of games, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think he would be more valuable. Smithy is another guy that would be right up there as far as just he's the one person that Immortals changed.
Well, they also
Now
changed their
first
coach.
place.
And Pobelter
Yeah.
gave a bunch of credit.
The coach is really good.
I was gonna say though, the only other person that kind of reminds me of would be maybe a couple years ago, High for Cloud9 when they brought him back in at jungle position, and the team went from 9th place to going to Worlds because High
Yeah.
coming in and
7th? They were 8th when he came in.
I just watched the dive for
the
the drive
elimination
for
drive?
elimination,
Okay.
and he said
That's
9th, so that's why I said that. I didn't fact check it, but
So
anyways,
blame him.
at one point they were 9th. That just type of legend and in-game leaders are always so impressive to me in League of Legends. And especially if Lyra is, going over theory and macro game with these guys. I don't know. It always comes back to what's your definition of most valuable player.
Yeah.
And that is different for multiple people. So that's why we have to be so clear when we're doing these votes. What is our hard definition of most valuable player? Because
what's
I
yours?
usually tend towards I default to, okay, if I pick any player out of the league to start my team to be on my team, I don't know how many other picks I'm going to be able to get. If I can only grab one player and I'm like, this guy's for sure on my team, and then we're building later, I feel like that is my MVP.
And is that Lyra if he's also your coach?
I'm a jungler, bro. I'm gonna be playing. No,
Yeah.
I'm picking Bjergsen.
I try and eyeball wins over replacement. Like if you replace this guy with an average player, how much would the team tank? And that to me is kind of the same thing as Kobe,
that's what
as
I'm
who is
saying.
the most important player on the team.
And that's like with him. That's why I'm bringing it up, right? Because this is not only is he super good. He was considered the best jungler in the league last split. I don't know if you consider him the best in the league this split, but if he is also a coach and you lose your strategy and you lose your best player, how
You're gonna have a
many
bad
wins?
time.
Like if you replace this guy with who is the average jungler in the league, who's like the middle of the pack, what would you consider in the league right now? And then put him in there. And what does Envy do?
Do we now name an average jungler or
Yeah.
just pretend?
Name your average jungler.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Who do you think, Kobe? Who's like the middle of the pack?
Your average.
I'm honestly gonna go with like Shrimp or somebody.
Okay,
that's
because
actually what I
So
thought.
Shrimp is on Envy now. How much better or worse is Envy?
a lot.
They're in the pack of 4-win teams.
So they're out of
That's
the
at
playoffs,
least 4 wins over
and they're fighting now
replacement.
for
Yeah.
relegation.
Yeah.
So the MVP thing that you're talking about is like the difference between who is most valuable player as an individual player, best player in the league versus who is most valuable player to their specific team.
Yeah.
And for me, I like isolating it as who is literally the best player in the league, who like offers most to me if I'm making a team. Rather than, this guy, he has a lot of, pretty weak teammates. So, he's incredibly valuable to his team. And for Lyra, it's like a double thing because you can't discount him just because he is on a weaker team because he actually, just individually,
He's sick.
if you do rank him right there with the entire league, incredibly valuable player just as the entire league is considered. But I feel like that's the biggest dividing point for those MVP votes.
There's the wins over replacement stuff, but there's also just best player because you don't want to overly punish a player for having other good teammates. But it is harder to stand out when you have good teammates, so that always factors into these discussions. With that being said, I voted for Bjergsen like 3 splits in a row because he's been the best player in NA for this long. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where the ballot goes this time.
Discussion, though.
This is a tough one because the top 5 teams or top 6 teams are all within 2 or 3 wins of each other. So best player on best team becomes much more subjective at this point. So end of regular season award, it's going to be a crazy voting process this split.
That was a good tangent. I kind of
Yeah.
want to go on one real quickly because you reminded me
I
of
give
what.
you my blessing. Go
Thank you,
forth,
thank you,
Kobe.
thank you, thank you. Is Zale gonna teach me and lend his good brain as well as far as our
What's the question? What
substitute
we got?
position? I touched on the Drive episode that they just released. I know you guys
Mhm.
haven't watched it yet because it was
Mhm.
like literally released this morning. But I just thought that this was one of the best Drive episodes that they have ever done, and a lot of it is due to I've known about those guys since the very beginning, and it was a lot of nostalgia.
It's on
But
Lemonation and High, I
it's
believe,
on
right?
Lemon Nation, yeah. For people who haven't watched it, I really would recommend it because it goes into a lot of aspects of Lemon Nation's life in a pretty quick manner. And I never felt like it slowed down either. Their team play, his
Mhm.
family life, the interactions between these different things, and I just thought that it was a very informative piece of work
Yeah.
and brought up a lot of good themes as well as takeaways for people moving forward.
I always like the slightly longer drives. This is the longest one I've seen. I
Yeah.
thought it was 16 minutes. I was trying to watch it this morning, but then we had to come record this thing, so I'm going to watch it right afterwards. There's been a few really good pieces of drive. I know Matt's one was really good. I was trying to
Yeah.
think of another really good one. I really like GBM's for whatever reason
Hmm.
when he came over, but I can't wait to watch Lemon Nation because we've been casting him since the beginning of that. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool nostalgia elements when I watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for it when you gave the high praise because Matt's was definitely my favorite. Actually like the C9 one a fair bit, like or that was duos.
The Impact
That
Ray
was
duo,
duos.
that was
Actually,
different.
that wasn't Drive. My mistake. But yeah, Matt is definitely my favorite one. I like the part of the aspect I like when I'm watching Drive. For me, I want to know something that I could not have known from just watching the broadcast, right? And that I think is what is really cool about seeing these other pieces of content. Like, great, he's a really good player. And if they say if it's just kind of the same things that you hear in an interview, like the Acadian one, it was good content, but don't get me wrong, I liked it less because I didn't feel like I learned something new that I hadn't heard really in interviews and things like
Hmm.
that. So maybe I don't know if this really has that,
Yeah.
but that's really what I like to get. I like to get something I couldn't have gotten from broadcast.
The reason I brought it up is because I thought it actually was, kind of applicable to the other things that we were talking about with substitutions and
Mm.
how
Mhm.
difficult it is to like configure a team for success. Everyone's, mind is blown that Team Liquid are throwing all this money and picking up all these players and can't seem to find, a configuration to stick with.
Yeah.
But Lemon Nations, I thought very, very quickly and very succinctly, like gave a lot of insight into how important for the original Cloud9, and Quantic when they first
Yep.
acquired it, and we all remember the configuration of the players, the relationships of those players,
Mhm.
and they even talk about how even though some of the players didn't even like each other, it was so important, and they felt like a family, and they like all the things that they worked through. I don't know. It just really hit home, especially since we have all been on teams and
Yep.
and played in situations like
Be
that.
tough.
I just think that get out you there and watch it. But let's move on
Yeah.
now. Enough tangents.
Now that
guys-
we're so old, Twitter questions?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. Or do you guys want to talk about who's gonna get the second playoff bye?
Yeah.
Let's. I think we should touch on that a bit because we didn't really talk about Omar God, and that's why I want to like at least just
Mhm.
touch on this because
Get
that
in there,
has
Zale.
been
Start us off.
a pretty quick, I think, or pretty contested race, right?
Immortal,
For-
COG, TSM going for both of them. We're
Mhm.
assuming Immortals are going to get it because they're
they're
a
in
win
first.
ahead and they have an easier schedule than the other two.
And they have Smithy at the
Ex-Smithy
jungle
God,
and
Flame
CLG.
God, Ole God.
So do you now count CLG out? Are they not going to be able to do it? Like, do you guys think that this is going to be a strong CLG, or is it like, oh, back to rebuilding phase? Like, give us some time, blah blah blah.
Yeah, really quick, strength of schedule. COG plays Envy, Phoenix 1, Team Dignitas, and then TSM. It's going to be the last day of the split. That could actually decide the bye. TSM plays FlyQuest, Envy, Phoenix 1, and then COG. I have a hard time seeing COG drop any of those games before the CLG one.
Before
And
the
then I
TSM one.
think CLG might lose to Team Dignitas in there, and they both play Envy. Plus, it is the Omar God situation where he's been playing for a couple weeks, and he still needs to scale up a little bit. So I put TSM as a front runner just based off that substitution. I don't think we've seen them with Omar God.
Mhm.
They're not as, they're not a first place team currently with Omar God. So I don't think it's going to happen overnight, and I give the edge to TSM.
Yeah, I think it is, going to be a bit rough here at the very beginning. And even in CLG's releases, they talk about building into the best team and building into, being able to place first place at the end of playoffs. they aren't really expecting an instant change as well, or instant success with him. So I would definitely say that they have a lot more to work through. It's possible that they can still do it. They can have that success because so many of the other players have been so successful. As you said earlier, with the Dardoch pickup, it wasn't him carrying this lineup, and he didn't, change the face of this lineup. He kind of inspired and brought that competitive spirit to the rest of them, and we've seen improvements from Huhi and all of the guys on CLG. So I still think that this is solidly top of the pack team as far as running for that spot. Though it's going to be rough.
I definitely agree. It's going to be tough, and I think what makes it more tough is that this is the team that wants to win everything. This is the team that wants to be so competitive and not just get to Worlds, but compete at Worlds, right? And now we're very close to Worlds. They have made this sub, and the amount of pressure on Omar God to perform not tomorrow, not next week, like now, right, is so high because if he has a bad rest of the split, if they have one bad playoff series, they could be out of Worlds. They do not have a lot of championship points. Like there's not, I don't think, a lot of time for them to improve to be able to have that sort of run. Otherwise, it feels like your year is kind of gone because they didn't have a great spring split and they want to get to Worlds.
The playoff series is one thing because I think they had that bad playoff series in spring, but they have a month until Omar God's going to have to play in a playoff series. 5 weeks if they get a playoff bye. So I think that is a pretty reasonable amount of time to get acquainted, and I can see why they would be okay with that going forward. So I think that's a little bit less pressure on Omar God. It's not like if they don't get a playoff bye, everything is over because they have to play Envy in the first round of the playoffs. I think they should
He's
be okay.
Still
with
a
that
rookie though, coming in, like at the later half of a split, having to perform. Not just we're expecting on a regional level, but if if they qualify for Worlds, people are going to be expecting that, and he'll have never done that. This will be his first playoffs. It was his first regular season LCS game. Like that's a pretty steep slope to climb.
If COG goes 4-0, I know we've done a lot of tangents.
He's new Mike Young,
rookie of the split, away from Mike Young.
I don't know, man. No comment.
No comment. Twitter questions. Number one Twitter question from Hobo Junior 20. How much do you think how old someone?
Why was that number 20. So sad? Before he was loving, it's like 17, but now it's 20.
Yeah. How much?
He's not
do
a teenager
you think
anymore. It's all downhill.
How old someone is affects them getting into esports / getting on a pro team. So age discrimination is basically this question in esports. Do you think it exists?
Oh well, my first reaction to that would be the kind of themes that we were talking about earlier of teams getting along with each other, and if you're just so much older than the rest of your team that you can't relate to these guys just as human beings, and that automatically is going to make it more difficult. I don't think that there is a tremendous people always talk about slower reaction speeds or arthritis or whatever coming in. We haven't seen huge age discrepancies, mainly because I think generations older than us, not as many people there weren't kids available or whatever, but
I think how old is someone has a fairly low impact on getting into esports or pro team. How good you are matters. And I think the age is a correlation rather than a causation because older people have less disposable time to play League, generally speaking, so they're not going to be good enough to make it onto pro teams. If people that are 23 years old played as much as someone who's 19, I think you'd see just as many 23-year-olds having their rookie split. But that's just not the way life works right now. So you see younger guys start.
My basic thing with this is, if you're much older, yes, it affects it, but should it affect it and will affect it in the future? I don't think so, because I'm definitely of the belief that getting older does not necessarily mean you get worse. It just means that people don't have the time to commit, like you said, or want other things from their life. And up to this point, esports has not been that solid career that you can be like, okay, well, I could raise a family on this, right? Like I'm set. It has not been there. And as it develops and as those salaries go up and as there's more stability, I think it can be that. Like you look at fighting games, one of the most like mechanically challenging types of esports that there are. Tokido just won Evo. He's 32. Right? Like that's the first time he's won Evo, I do believe. And that's like peaking at 32, right? This is not an 18-year-old kid.
Yep.
You can perform at that level, but people need to have this job security and the cushion there to be able to continue doing it for that long. And once they do, I think we'll see the players getting older and older as they're playing.
Agree.
Go after your dreams. Become a League pro. Isaac, you got
there
this.
You go.
Next question. Forecast winner with NA returning to a tank meta. What tank countering champions could we start seeing in the LCS that we wouldn't see otherwise?
Urgot.
Trundle. I've been waiting for Trundle. I think that needs to be in there. I think Trundle is the ultimate alone is so good. We used to see Trundle support because
I think he's already been in pro play.
Yep. But I mean in LCS,
But
we
really
haven't seen him.
returning to the scene as in becoming
and
meta.
and even just regionally, right? Like I think he's been in LCK and some other regions and stuff. But I think if you're willing to play Braum, if you're willing to play Tom Kench, if you're willing to play all that stuff, you can even play Trundle support. And then great, they have a Maokai top who spent the whole game getting tanky. Well, you just essentially like gave a Last Whisper and a Void Staff to your whole team when you pressed R and made yourself much more tanky. So I think Trundle needs to get it back in there.
Yeah, Trundle's I keep a very close tab on the win rates of jungle champions, and like he spiked up a couple of weeks ago with all the tanks. So it's like the counter to tanks, and always has been because his ultimate.
Trundle in the Sejuani, by the way, is hilarious because Trundle's ultimate steals a percentage of armor and magic resistance.
Oh God, does it work on the passive?
Yes. So when Sejuani loses the passive, Trundle's still stealing the same flat amount of armor and MR, and Sejuani can go negative. So the same thing works with Rammus's defensive bulk row back with like giving armor and MR. Yeah. So it's stupid.
Yeah.
Because you have like 600 armor. Anyway, Trundle is good. I think Azir, depending on how good Adaptive Helm is.
I'm waiting for Malzahar too.
But Malzahar would be another one. Gilio Lol. Will coaches ever be able to communicate with players in game? Most sports allow some communication during game. Why not League?
I don't know. I mean, I think this is just like a super opinion-based thing. So if in my opinion the goal is to have the highest level of play in every game, then coaches probably should be able to, right? Because I do think it can up play, but it also devalues some of the shot calling and those skills that we have prioritized so heavily. So I don't think it actually ever happens. But I think it would raise the level, like the average level, right? Because you could have someone who's awful at the game but knows what you're supposed to do. And even just giving reminders like, hey, you need to build this item next. You need to do this. Like that stuff could be useful.
I don't like it. Does he have a notepad? He's like taking ward timers down. He's telling them, I feel like it detracts too much from the way we think the game is supposed to be played.
Yeah, I don't think that it would be a good direction to go in. I know some people have been like, oh yeah, but then you can have just the shot caller guy. But I feel like League of Legends is already such a decision based game. Like this is not like you said a fighting game, right? This is not a game where your mechanics you need to be at a certain level, but so much of it is about decision making, and this is a tactical game. So if you also introduce a coach like that, then I wouldn't want to see players go more towards the, oh, great, I can just, not think about the game anymore and just kind of, mindlessly play my lane, and then he'll tell me what to do for the rest of it. I feel like it does take away one aspect.
Especially when I feel like so much of the league, like the great players, has been built up, like the shot calling of these players. And, you think about like some of the most famous players, like guys like Hai, they talk about shot calling all the time, Aframu, and there's like, even Smoothie coming up now, people talk a lot about him and Impact and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of players. So it would certainly immediately devalue a skill that has been highly prioritized throughout the professional league scene. So I don't think it should come in, but it would be a different skill set that is being tested if it does.
All right, thank you for the questions. That will do it for this episode of The Dive. Reminder that we're released every Wednesday on YouTube and various podcast platforms. Search for The Dive LOL.
Yeah, we're also getting a bunch of Twitter questions. Keep them coming. Me, Azale, Jats, hashtag, any of those tags will get seen.
Hashtag.
Also, I didn't welcome you back, Kobe, so welcome back to Dive. It was good to have you.
I welcomed him back an hour ago.
To me.
You've been welcome.
Dad welcomed me back the moment I walked in.
Well, you were welcome whether you want to be or not. And also remember to tune into the NA LCS on Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific. Phoenix 1 taking on Echo Fox. Someone's going to win the game.
Someone has
there.
Hype so.